right, today is Saturday, November the 22nd, and thank you again for joining my Disney Brain podcast. This is podcast number 25. We're continuing our discussion today around planning and park strategy. So this is going to be a very, very good discussion, and we're going to kind of refer you back to podcast 23, where we first started this discussion, so you'll get it in its entirety. But certainly we're glad that you joined us today, and we hope you are coming off of a great week or in the middle of a great week, in the middle of a great day. And this content is just adding to that great day. Now, because we are in Thanksgiving week, and I don't know if I'm going to record again before actual Thanksgiving, I'm going to go ahead and tell everyone happy early Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving, of course, is getting us a lot closer to Christmas. So that's all good. As we do each week, I want to remind you that we have a number of social media platforms or ways for you to contact us and stay in touch. Follow us on Instagram at My Disney Brain, and you can like us on Facebook, and you'll get those notifications when new content is posted. You'll be able to see what we're talking about, any news and updates, and just things surrounding Disney and Walt Disney World. Each week, we do invite our listeners, if you haven't done so already, please go and join our website. I got to tell you, of the social media platforms or the ways that we communicate to our listeners, probably my favorite is through the website, because the content is beginning to be a lot more robust. And I think it's just good information for you to have access to. And the awesome thing about joining the website is that when there are new updates, you don't have to necessarily go to our website. We'll send the new updates to your email box, and you can read the blogs from there. So make sure you do that. That's mydisneybrain.com. Also, as we do each week, we want to encourage you as a listener to, one, continue listening, but also to please share our social media, our podcast, and our website links to your friends, to your coworkers, to your associates, to your family. Certainly, you know someone who is in the throes of planning a Disney vacation this information could help them with, or they're just always fiending to be at the parks like I am and our guests are. And this will kind of fill the gap. This week, we are going to, like I said, get back into our planning and park strategy discussion. And as I promised you last week on podcast 24, I told you that Nicole and Corey are going to be back, and Nicole and Corey are back. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing this morning?
Doing great.
We're not in Disney, but we're doing good.
I know, right? Well, it's funny you said it, because I wake up Saturday and Sunday mornings, and I never watch the news, and I'm a big YouTuber, so I'm usually always, my algorithm is heavy Disney stuff. And I watched one of your videos from your last cruise when let me see, Ella had interaction with the Frozen Anna and Elsa. Yes. I saw that piece. You guys were having breakfast, and then I saw Tiana. So it was pretty awesome.
Thank you so much. We love being able to chronicle Ella's character meets. And, so being a sibling, she had to ask them if they argue a lot. She had to ask Anna what her favorite sandwich is. So We're glad that we get to share that with everyone that, isn't on the ship or isn't in the park.
That's great. Yeah, I did see that. What's your favorite sandwich? I couldn't really understand what Anna was responding. It sounds like she said something around chocolate. And I said, is there a chocolate?
Yes.
Yeah. I think she was trying to be funny, but yeah, she said chocolate and peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, well,
like that.
I knew what she meant, because I am not above a Nutella and banana sandwich. So
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Okay, that must be the Arendelle remix.
Well, that's great. Well, we're going to get into much more in a few, but guys, welcome back. I will tell you that I had a great time recording with you guys the first time, and our numbers for when did that go up? Did it go up in November, October? I can't remember, but
November.
It went up in November. Our numbers bypassed our previous months before half of the month of November had gone by. So
Wow.
a lot of folks were interested in that particular podcast, and I think they'll be interested in this as well. So, like I told you guys offline, I'll tell you online. You guys always have you have an open invitation to always come back and share, and this at least this platform will be open to you. Now,
Thank
before
you.
we
Well,
really, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nicole.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having this platform. Last week's episode where you broke down the must-have apps, it was so informative, and it wasn't in a way that seemed overwhelming to the listener. And then in turn, they'll be the park goer. So please keep doing what you're doing. It's definitely needed.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, before we jump into our discussion, a couple things. I do want to promo our next week's podcast. Will be podcast number 26, and we're going to be talking Disney Plus. Things that we've learned so far, things that we like about it, maybe some opportunities for improvement, and just a general discussion around that particular platform, that app, however you're using it, smart device or Roku or smart TV, however you're doing it. We're going to sit and have a discussion about that. And yeah, so join us next week for Disney Plus discussion. Now, I will tell you this. I'm going to give you a short little taste so you'll come back next week. There are a number of reasons why, and I mentioned a few last week, that I love Disney Plus. It's doing something that I have had to do manually on my own over the years. So if you go way back to VHS tapes, which my oldest daughter, Imani, has probably, 50 or so. She has the original, she has the Bambis all the way up to the Beauty and the Beast and all these sorts of things. And I can't remember when we really converted over to DVD. It probably was around, the Tiana time. But we had a number of ways that we kept all of our Disney stuff in one place. Now, all of it was cumbersome. All of it was manual. And what I've always wanted was a digital method to which I could consolidate all the things that I'd like to watch Disney related. And quite honestly, that's what Disney Plus does. And that's why I was excited about it. That's why I love it. I spent the first day setting up my profile and setting up a watch list. I didn't even watch anything the first day. I just went through and I just went in as deep details as I could. I'll tell you what I did, and then I'm gonna save the rest for next week. I went into in the older Disney classic like let's see Mary Poppins or something like that, and I selected it. And if you page down at the bottom, it will refer you to other classics in that similar time frame. And those are the things that I wanted to really list, because I haven't seen those in so many years. Some of them, the Tim Conways and the other movies that were when I was a little boy, I would watch on Sundays with my brother and my grandfather. Those are things that hold special memory to me. Well, Nicole and Corey, I am going to talk a little bit more about. I know you guys have had a small opportunity to kind of fool around with it also. What are the things you guys have enjoyed so far about Disney Plus?
I think to your point of the things that were special to you as a child, it is so great to be able to share that with our girls, because you know that once something is in the Disney vault, it was in the Disney vault. So there would be times in which we would try to explain a movie to Ella and then not have digital access to it. And, who knows where our VCR is type of situation. So this is really, we sit down as a family and watch things now. And
So for me, I went straight to the X-Men cartoon that I used to watch Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. I remember what time it came on and everything, and I started binge watching that. So, it's a great platform for the nostalgia, and then also for the kids of today. So they can go in and watch their stuff, and we can go in and watch our stuff. I mean, it's like the perfect platform.
Just really quick, a perfect example is our girls are 10 years apart. So Ava, our oldest, grew up on a series called That's So Raven. where Raven Simone was a teenager having flashbacks. Well, Ella's favorite show on Disney now is Raven's House, and Raven is a mom of 2 children. So it's like, oh, Elle, you've got to watch That's So Raven. And, Elle can share Raven's House with Ava. So it really is just, I'm so happy they did it.
Yeah, I am too. I know they've had some technical difficulties. Fortunately, we've not had any. I hope you guys haven't had any either. But I think we'll get through that piece and get to the other side of that, where this new content is coming out. I said I was going to watch chapter 3 of Mandalorian last night, but I didn't do that. But I guess I'll do it today, since I don't look like I'm getting to doing the yard work with the rain. So that'll be something I can do today.
But same here.
Yeah. So just real quick, guys, again, join us next week, podcast number 26. We're going to jump into Disney Plus. I do want to say again, go out to our website, make sure you subscribe. There are a couple blogs that I think I'll bring to your attention. Number one is the Disney bucket list, which I thought was particularly neat in terms of things that you may want to do at some point in your lifetime, and check them off from a Disney side. And also, since we're talking about technology, the Disney Genie app is still under construction, if you will, and is set to come out late 2020. But there's some interesting commentary on that as well, and we'll continue to update those blogs as we move forward. Now, today's content is going to be part 2 around planning and park strategy. You're going to hear from me and how I kind of logistically and methodically guide my troop of 5 through the parks each year and what times of year that we go. You're going to get the same feedback. Some may be some different feedback, perhaps from Nicole and Corey, in terms of how they plan and what their method is to ensure their family has an excellent time on the parks and even on the cruises. So we're going to jump in, to that discussion. But before we do that, one of the things, Nicole and Corey, that after listening to our podcast last week, I don't know if I did complete justice, not last week before. I didn't really get the message across as to how you guys are promoting your Disney experiences and what your social media platforms are, your preferred social media platforms. So what I thought I would do today is give you, as much time as you like, just to talk about how you guys love to share Disney and the ways that the listeners can, connect with that, be it primarily YouTube or Instagram or both, and really what it is that road tripping with the Roots is.
Thank you so much. And we absolutely love all things Disney. So very similar to you, when we're not in the parks, we are listening to the podcast. We are watching the YouTube videos. And as we were doing so, we definitely connected with everyone, but there were some pieces to the puzzle that we didn't see. So for us, having 2 children 10 years apart, how do you do the parks? What does that look like? Having a very different palettes across the board, that goes beyond the, hot dogs or French fries in the park. So we wanted to kind of let people into our space and let them see why Disney's means so much to us, and just to get a little bit of us. So we've got, we're kind of 80s babies. So we do a lot of kind of pop culture references, and our children just look at us with a blank stare. We have a very energetic 6-year-old. So, how do you tackle the park or different places with her? And then we also have a 16-year-old. How do you keep them engaged when you're traveling different places so that it's just not, dare I say, an amusement park, which Disney is not, but there are so many other life enriching things for them to do. How do you incorporate that where, a 16-year-old's like looking forward to the next trip? Right. So we really, I hope that those that watch our YouTube at Road Tripping with the Roots, or that connect with us on Instagram at Road Tripping with the Roots, see that we really do want to make Disney a place where everyone can look and say, okay, let's make that trip, or to see our family and say, we see ourselves in that family. So I love when you say a brown-eyed approach. Yeah, we want to kind of open book and say, come into our space, interact with us. So we welcome comments. We welcome, any questions and any suggestions for upcoming videos or trips.
And that's at Road Tripping with the Rudes, tripping without the G. And that's all across Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We do have a Twitter. That name was too long for Twitter, so it's at Road Rudes on Twitter. So those are all the ways you can get a hold of us and watch our stuff and see what's going on in the life of the Rudes.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. You guys are not slack on the video either. I have a very strong production background, and that's one of the things that draws me into certain videos. Obviously, the quality of it. I'll check out really quick if there's some really obscure movement or shaky or the ambient noise is too much. You guys do an excellent job with your video production, and your content is long enough, but it's short enough. You know what I mean? It's one of those, it's over 10 minutes, but it's not over 20 minutes. Is really good content for folks that are just trying to check in for a little while, get a Disney fix, see what's going on, and come right out. So which one of you guys or both of you maybe are doing the video editing?
That is Corey. Corey has really put in a lot of work. I know he won't give himself that much credit, but he really does deserve it. He hunkers down. He tries to make it concise, absolutely, but he tries to think as the viewer and, what would be the most beneficial for the viewer. Yeah. So thank you, Corey.
Yeah. Thank you. So what I try to do is, and Nicole will tell you, like, she actually sometimes has to reel me back in, because sometimes I won't put a video out because I need perfection, and she lets me know, like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect, right. People just want to see it. Yeah. And she has to remind me of that, because sometimes I'll just sit on a video like, no, I don't want to put that out because it's not perfect. So yeah, thank you for noticing.
No, guy, you're doing an excellent job, Corey, and I think your content. One of the things I think about, like Nicole said, is the listener, and so when I'm shooting, because I've done this for so long, so it's different for me. I teach my daughter, she goes to school for photography and video, and my oldest daughter does photography as well. And when they're with me, I say, "Dad, well, how can you do this? How do you do that? How do you know that you're getting enough, footage? How do you know?" And I said, "I guess I've been doing it so long. I do what's called I shoot to edit. I know exactly nothing's on the floor in my studio. I know exactly how I want it to look, but it comes from years of doing it. So I get you. You want it to be perfect, but Nicole is right. At the end of the day, I think the consistent content and really the perfection, if we can use that word, is you and your family and folks connecting with your personalities and seeing themselves and envisioning themselves doing things that you guys are doing. And that's what I found out too on YouTube. Let it be really good quality. Let it be really good audio, but also just let it be you, and people will resonate with that. And I certainly have.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you so much.
All right. So let's jump into it. So guys, if you missed our first segment with Nicole and Corey, you don't necessarily have to stop this recording to go back and listen to that one first, but I do want you to listen to both of them, because you will get the full effect of the planning and the strategies that we have talked about and are going to continue to talk about today. Now, this content is not necessarily for folks who've never been, although it will probably help them the most. This will be for folks who have never been to the parks, maybe don't understand how to plan a trip to Walt Disney World, maybe don't understand how to plan a Disney cruise. And it also is for folks in intermediate and advanced levels, because sometimes we go to the parks, especially folks who live in, the Anaheim or the Kissimmee, Orlando area, and you can just jump into the parks anytime. Maybe those folks feel like, well, we know everything there is to know. We're here all the time. I know that everyone can learn something. So we try to take every perspective in account. And I think we have knocked on every door as it relates to that. And I think listening to this and just reassessing what you're doing, or simply assessing what you're about to do if you're a beginner, this is going to help you. Now, one of the things I always say that we do here at My Disney Brain, our value is this: we want to be able to assist folks who want to get to Disney parks, because we have a huge affinity for it, an affection for it, a love for it, and we think that everybody at least one time should go. So our value add is to try to help you accomplish that. So we know the things that are involved. We know there's a great deal of planning, and we know the monetary commitment that it takes as well. And if you're going with the large group, we know that the patience and the meditation and the deep breathing it takes to get everybody together as well. So we're going to kind of hopefully help you, and tell you what we do, and you can take some of our strategies and apply it to your planning and see how beneficial it will be. And I'm certain that it will be. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to jump into planning. So we had about 4 or 5 questions that we felt kind of covered the aspect of taking a trip to Walt Disney World, or either taking a Disney cruise, one or the other. So these sort of apply. Now, when we get into specifics about attraction strategies and pinwheel and stuff like that, obviously that's the park and not the cruise. So we'll be a little bit more specific when it comes to it. But to begin our conversation, we're going to provide some advice for families that are going to the parks for the first time. Now, again, this is primarily for folks who are going to the parks for the first time. So it will be, we'll start at the beginning, but I think we'll get into some discussion around some specifics that perhaps an avid or expert level park goer maybe hadn't considered. So make sure you tune in as well. So let's start there. So Nicole or Corey, you guys want to kick it off? Advice for families that are going to the parks for the first time.
So this is where you probably hear less of Corey and more of Nicole, because I just follow her lead once we get in the park.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Nicole.
I'm excited for the families that are going to Disney for the first time.
Yes.
And what I want to stress, and not in a scary way, but this is unlike any other trip you've ever taken. So it is important, in order for you to, not be overwhelmed, it's important to do your research. And so you need to really gauge where everyone is as far as their vacation goals. If you have a family that is, margaritas on the beach, this might not be for them.
Right.
But what I would say is, 1, don't book until you research. It's very important that you look at crowd levels, and I know we'll get into that further, that you look at time of year, you look at the weather, and do not underestimate the importance of preparing. So if you are looking to do your first Disney trip, and I'll speak more so to Disney World just because I haven't been to Disneyland yet.
Okay.
But I would absolutely say give yourself 6 months of preparation.
Okay.
And that's not every day looking at it, but start dabbling with, what time of year do we want to go? What events are being had? And, start doing that in the 6-month mark. Where do we want to stay? Do we want to stay within Disney World, or do we want to stay outside? And, what that looks like. By month 4 or 5, you should be ready to pull the trigger and book. And then that's when you start to look at reservations and when you can do your fast passes, getting familiar with the parks and what rides you want to do. The most important thing, I think, for first time travelers to Disney is you will not do everything, and that's okay.
Right.
I would equate it to someone coming to the U.S. for 2 weeks and us saying, okay, well, be sure to visit every state. It's not feasible. But for some reason, there are people that walk into Disney thinking they're going to get on every ride, they're going to see every character and see every attraction. That's not the magic of Disney. The magic of Disney is the things that you do get to do, and the interactions that you do have will give you lasting memories.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in real quick, Nicole, because you said something earlier that I want to refer back to, that Disney World, and Disneyland too, any Disney environment, but particularly Disney World, because it's so large. It is not an amusement park. It's not Six Flags. So one of the things I've had to tell folks who have very little Disney knowledge, and they approach it kind of like what Nicole is saying, you think you can just go, and because you go to Six Flags, it's not outrageous to think I can ride every roller coaster, because I've done it, and I've not had to get a fast pass. But that's not Disney World. So you have to change your expectations. Your paradigm has to shift in terms of the capacity and the scope of what you're about to do, particularly if you've never gone. So I just wanted to kind of push that in there. Disney World is a theme park. It's not an amusement park. And Disney World, as opposed to Disneyland, is monstrous. It is very large in size. And the scope and the capacity of people, attractions, food, all that stuff is, I don't want to say massive, because that would scare someone to think, well, I can't take this on to begin with. But it is massive when you sit back and think that, I forgot what the number is, but they say you can come to Disney World once a day, for a year and still not do everything. So there's a lot there. You just have to, like Nicole is saying, determine and be really guided and educated in what you want to do. Sorry for interrupting, Nicole.
Oh no, you are absolutely right. And I think with us, the moment that we accepted that we can't do everything is the moment that we were really open to the magic, and it became a absolutely quality over quantity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else? I was going to get my little 2 cents in. I did have a few things I wanted to offer as well. Did you have anything else?
No, I know that you are a Disney guru as well. That's why I think there's so much value to your podcast. So I'll let you take it over. And then if I think of anything, I'll just chime in.
Yeah, just chime in. When I first started, and wanted to go to Disney, I did exactly what Nicole is talking about. And the first thing I did, Nicole, you remember back in the days of ordering the planning DVDs, when they actually send you an actual DVD?
I still have mine.
Yeah, I still have mine. Believe it or not, I have one in each car, but don't judge me. So I still have the planning DVD, because what that planning DVD did for me, it gave me an idea of what I was about to experience, and scope of it. Because before I really got seriously into this, I had no idea about deluxe hotels versus value or on property. That didn't mean anything to me. I knew that I wanted to go to Disney World. And quite honestly, when people say Disney World, you know what most people think they're saying? They're saying the Magic Kingdom, but they don't realize that there's Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, right, and they don't know the scope of Disney World. They in their mind, they're saying Magic Kingdom, but they don't know the difference between the two. So that's how I started. Well, Disney's got a lot more technically advanced, of course, and they're not spending any money to send out DVDs, but you can still go to Disney.com and request a intro planning package. And I think what they do these days is send you a link or something like that, Nicole, to like a YouTube channel. Is that right?
They'll send you a link and you can go right on there and you have access to it. I've had unlimited access to it. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I always check it.
That's another avenue, if you will. Listen to what we're saying, but also you can have some stuff from Disney Direct. Here's what I want to do for you. I want to kind of point you the listener to our blog, because there's details, there's specifics there that can guide you into either DIYing this thing or going directly with Disney and talking with a cast member. There's a lot of good information out there, and it comes from the years of, you know, me and my family going to the parks and experiencing from the times where we were not, like Nicole said, you know, gurus necessarily with Disney, to the point to where we are now. So here's what I'm going to do for you. First of all, again, our blog is mydisneybrain.com, BRAIN.com. And you just sign up there. And like I said, you'll get new blog posts to your inbox. But just take a look through the website. I'm going to, throughout this podcast, refer to some things there. But before I do that, here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give folks like my top things that I ensure that I do to make my visit productive. So whether you've been, not been, these are some things that I do, sort of a checklist, a mental checklist, if you will, to make sure that you're going to have a productive visit. So this is building on Nicole's advice about how to begin the process. So one thing I always tell folks, if friends ask me, relatives, or just generally speaking, someone asks me, the most important thing, like Nicole said, is to start early. And in that beginning process, determine the dates that you want to go and purchase your tickets early. Purchase them early and purchase them online. When I go to
Absolutely.
the parks, and there's no judgment. So I don't know why people do it. I have an idea. People could be coming out of the country. Maybe they don't have access to internet where they live. I don't know. But every time I go through ticketing and go to transportation, I always see a line of people buying tickets. And
Yes.
I get confused sometimes. I'm like, man, why are people? I mean, it's not a small line. It's
No.
a number of people. So there must be a reason why people are waiting to when they get to the park. So if you're in that group, for whatever the reason, okay, fine. But if you don't have to be in that group, if you do have access to a credit card or, you know, Wi-Fi, you can get online and you can access the website, I strongly suggest you buy your tickets online. And so you can bypass that particular line, because I grant you, there's plenty more lines for the day. You don't want to be in that
Absolutely.
line. And like Nicole said in our earlier podcast that you're going to go back and listen to, the podcast, the Fast Pass opportunities come to you electronically. So if you're standing at the gate buying your ticket, there's one thing you cannot do. Well, you can, but the chances of you being successful is very, very low. And that is secure your fast passes for the day. You really don't have the opportunity, like another guest had that purchased 30 or 60 or 180 days ago, to secure their fast passes. And what that does is help you plan and organize your day, your dining. Man, it makes a big difference. So if you're going for the first time, one of the success tactics for me and my family has always been to ensure that we've purchased our tickets early, and we've done so online, and we have secured our fast passes. Also, we've organized and reserved our dining. Sometimes we go, well, actually, no, I don't think we ever have. I think we always eat while we're at the park somewhere where it requires a reservation. I was going to say maybe we did quick service or something, but the last several times we've gone, we've always had to have reservations. So if you do have a favorite place like ours, which is in Magic Kingdom, which is Be Our Guest, you for lunch, you don't necessarily have to have a reservation. And I don't know, Nicole, do you know, did they change
Yes.
it? I know it kind of switches. So now you do have to have a reservation.
Well, I would strongly recommend it. So Be Our Guest is one of our faves as well.
Mhm.
So I go in, but I found that actually I really enjoyed lunch. And if you're on the dining plan, it's actually counts as a counter service, believe it or not. So you get the Be Our Guest experience, but you know, it's using a counter service. So I do the reservations. Now I know that for first time Disney goers, we may have just lost you there for a minute. But to say it again, this is not an amusement park. So when we speak about dining, Disney boasts some of the, highest rated meal experiences.
Yep.
So it goes beyond just again, park fare. So absolutely, we do reservations on dining, especially for BR guests whenever we can, just because it does fill up so quickly.
Yeah.
And I know that I said for the first time visitors plan at least 6 months out. And I'll be honest, I say it that way so not to intimidate anyone. But, our family as avid park goers, I'm planning a year out. So I think the more times I go to the park, the further out I plan, because it's, again, having an understanding of what we want.
Yeah. That's important. We'll get into why it's important. But basically, it's math. You have a certain amount of time, and you have to determine what you're going to be able to accomplish within that time. And planning, of course, you have a greater chance of being successful. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But to finish off my little list here. So you have your purchase tickets early and online, helps you reserve your fast passes, organize your dining. If you want to know more about dining specifically, and again, you're new, or you just, maybe every time you go, you only go to Animal Kingdom. You don't know much about Epcot. You don't know much about Hollywood Studios. Take a look at this blog post. It is called My Favorite Eateries, Walt Disney World. And we've taken the time to go through each park from Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios. We listed our favorite eateries in the parks. And we also inserted menus and prices and things like that, which will give you a guide. So you can kind of take a look. Now, your diet may be different than ours, et cetera, but we tried to be, diverse in terms of diet, so you would be able to kind of get a sense of what's in the parks, and you can kind of plan. Of course, there are links there to take you out directly to Disney site. So if you want to dig into the menus a little bit more, you can do that. One of the other things about your My Disney experience, which is what you'll sign up for once you buy your tickets online, refer back to our podcast from last week when we talked about the apps. You link all your park goers and your itinerary, and you can share that. That's important as you go to the parks, because if you're going with a group, you want everyone to know what you're doing, so everybody can be prepared both physically and mentally. And what I mean is this: if you have a dining reservation and there's a dress requirement, you want to make sure everybody brings something that's appropriate. You don't want to have like 9 people ready to go and one person just has shorts and flip-flops. You want to make sure folks are prepared. And the other thing is, I find with my group, it's a lot easier to share the itinerary than to have 4 different phone calls saying, Dad, what should I do this day? Or what are we doing this day? Just it's all on there. Everybody has access to their sign on to My Disney Experience. They can take a look at the itinerary and see what's what. And then the last 2 things for me, I always have a bag. And Corey mentioned having a bag when we talked the first time, one of the things that he would not go to the park without. And I spend time organizing my bag, within that last 30 days. I figure out what I want to bring, what I don't want to bring, and I just make sure it's in my bag. Because the last thing you want to do is, I'm not one of these folks, even if I'm going on a business trip, I'm packed 3 days beforehand, because I don't enjoy the feeling of being rushed. I don't enjoy of being rushed, because my experience in my life, the more time I've given myself to prepare for something, the more successful I've been at it. So if I wait 24 hours to pack for a trip that even I don't want to go on, chances are I'm probably going to forget something. You're laughing at me, Nicole.
I know. I am right with you. And so we definitely have to do a checklist. Mm-hmm. And, it just, for maybe first time goers, the argument might be, okay, we're not going out of the country. We're still in Florida. I could stop at a Walmart or something like that. once I touch ground on Disney territory, I'm trying to be there as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't want to have to break away because of something that we forgot.
Yeah. 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 You're right. You're right. So, do yourself a favor, plan early, and give yourself enough time. And the last thing I'll say, last two things. Number one is don't lose time. Like, make use of your travel day. Make use
Yes.
of your travel day. So if you're flying down, if you're driving down, assuming you don't get there obviously in the middle of the night, if you're getting down during sometime during the day, still plan something for that day. And what my family and I do, we always plan to arrive our travel day. We always get into the city early, or around noon. So that means we have a large segment of the day to still do things. Now, unless it's an after hour event, I wouldn't necessarily go into the parks because I feel like it wouldn't hold the value for me because I've got half a day now. But
I agree.
I still can go to Disney Springs. I still can do some Disney shopping at some of the outlets and things like that. And Nicole mentioned before in our other podcast. So you can still do a number of things. You can still go to the resorts. You can still do a monorail trail, monorail trip, and see the trees and different things at the parks. For example, when we go during Christmas time, that's one of the things that we love to do. So make use of your travel day. And lastly, I'm going to refer you to our podcast number 11, which was how to prepare for your next Walt Disney World vacation. And podcast number 9, the best things to bring to Walt Disney World. And the reason I'm referring you there and not bringing all that stuff here is because it goes into great detail. It's really specific methods and ideas about how to prepare. And I think you'll be better suited than me giving you the cliff notes if you just went there and listened to those. Those can go into great details about specifics of your trip from planning all the way to execution. Okay. All right. Well, we only took, Nicole, 30 minutes on the first question. All right. So our second part of this strategy formula is going to be when Nicole kind of alluded to it a little earlier. Part of your planning, probably the part that snags people the most, Nicole and Corey, is trying to determine, when am I going to do this? When am I going to go to the parks? What's your advice for folks trying to decide? How do we help them decide? When do they go? And these, how do you guys decide?
So for me, it's all based on heat. I cannot be out there in that heat, so I try to go when it's the coolest.
Yeah. So Corey's right. It really depends on your family. And I think for me, I don't see planning for a Disney trip as a chore. I really enjoy it because I'm able to sprinkle kind of like, parts that everyone loves into it. So it's like, oh, Mom, how'd you know? Or, Corey's like, oh, thank you for not having us here in July. Mm-hmm. So know what works for your family as far as the weather. And if you have not been had time in a Florida summer,
right,
I would not recommend your first time being in the summer. 2, crowd levels. If you are someone that has not been in, a large city, or, Disney can sometimes feel like New York City on New Year's Eve. So, yeah. And there are, and you have a lot of great tools, Kelly, but there are a lot of tools to kind of walk you through crowd levels.
Yeah.
3, what does your family love? So that's where we go into the hard ticketed events. And by hard ticket for the first timers, that means that even if you bought a 3-day pass online, there may be an event in which the park or Magic Kingdom or a specific park closes at a certain time and you have to buy an additional ticket. So for us, we love Halloween. So we make it a point to try to go to Not So Scary Halloween.
Okay.
So I guess really understanding your family. So knowing the limits as far as weather's concerned, If you have children in school, going off of that, looking at crowd levels, and also looking at what really interests you and your family. I will say, in interacting and speaking with you, Kelly, we are really now interested in looking at the Christmas season.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, we were intimidated at first.
Yeah.
But so I appreciate your input, because now I think we're like, all right, we might be ready to tackle this.
Yeah. Yeah. We felt like we had a secret for a number of years because my birthday falls around Thanksgiving. And as you guys know, Disney puts up their decor, holiday decor for Christmas the second week of November.
Yes.
So we were able to, for a number of years, access the parks with, I won't say low, but moderate to low crowd levels, and enjoy all of the trees and the snow on Main Street. All of that stuff was already going before the crowds actually started pouring in, which starts around the second or third week, second week of December, and all the way to New Year's. It gets, like you said, sort of a Manhattan type feel to it. But I will tell you this, folks figured that out. We went, I don't know, 2 or 3 years when we thought, man, we're not going to tell anybody about this because this is the best time to go. And then I think on that 4th year, we got to the hotel, and I tell you, it was so many people in the hotel. I was like, oh my God, they having a cheerleading conference? Or,
right.
What's happening? And they were, but a lot of the folks had figured it out. So now I just don't know, outside of the early months. We don't have to get deep into detail about this, but into early months, January to March, there's some downtime opportunities there if you stay away from the Run Disney week. But other than that, I mean, there's so much going on that there's really no downtime like we used to experience anymore. But
I agree.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I agree. So to your point, I feel like, okay, people started to get the memo. 1, 2, Disney started pushing out such attractive deals.
Yeah.
For those low periods.
Yeah.
I know everyone loves the free dining, but I'm like, okay, now you're infringing on my time of year.
Yeah. Well, so, it worked.
No, it did. And that's why, again, it's really important to do your research and to have your tools. We absolutely have some tools that we use, and I know we can speak to that later. But the great thing about Disney, both in Anaheim and World, is it has been in operation for so long that there's great historical and analytical data. So you can get, a pretty good read, I would say, because to your point, because of the promos and stuff, I would say take a snapshot and look at the last 3 years and see what the crowd levels are.
Yeah.
That's a level of data that I don't think you'd get many other places.
Yeah. You're right. That's a good analytical approach to solve, assuming, personally, if your schedule floats with. I know a lot of folks have to wait till the kids are out, and that's usually summertime, and you kind of handcuff to that summer period, for a 5 to 7 day duration. You don't want to take kids out of school, I guess, for 5 to 7 days. But there's ways to do it. So here's what we're going to do for you specifically. And I'm going to, again, refer you to some prior podcasts and to some blogs to help you. I'm going to give you an overview, but I'm going to give you these blogs and podcasts because you can go into them and go into a micro level of detail and determine what's going to work for you. So if you're talking strategies, we've gone from the planning stage now. Now we know that we're going, and we're now trying to figure out what dates are we going to go. So there's a really good blog on our podcast, and it is entitled, where is it? Here it is. Walt Disney World Theme Parks DIY. So this blog assumed that you were going to just kind of DIY this thing. You're going to do it yourself. And just like if you were to call a cast member to book your vacation, like Nicole had talked about earlier, you would have to go through pretty much the same steps. You would have to determine when you're going to go. So on this particular blog post, we've kind of consolidated the seasons, sort of a broad stroke calendar, if you will. So there are dates where we suggest low season will occur, dates where we suggest moderate, and dates where we suggest that are busy. Now, you could probably guess when the busy periods are. I talked to one already. When kids are out of school, 9 times out of 10 is going to be busy. 9 times out of 10 it is, because the kids are out of school. It's summertime, and kids are primary customer stakeholder for Disney. So of course it's going to be busy then. Holidays, people absolutely love to be in the parks around the holidays. So those are 2 times, even if you're not a guru, you could guess, 3-day weekend locals. Yeah, it's probably going to be, moderate to busy around, Columbus Day or Veterans Day or something like that. Now, low seasons, here's a date I'll throw out at you that a lot of folks may not know. So let me just pick 1 or 2 here. Weekdays, the months I was telling you about, January to March, weekdays, if you can get weekday attendance in the parks, you're probably going to hit a low crowd. You're in the early months of the year. For Florida, it's going to be as cool as it's going to get. And folks, kids are in school. There's necessarily no holidays. So you probably hit a low time. So maybe if you can go then, maybe that's a good time. How about September? Summer is ending. Kids are back in school. Holidays hadn't started. So perhaps, Nicole and Corey, I don't know if when you guys go in October, I'm sure if it's closer to Halloween, then the crowds have picked up. But because Mickey's Not So Scary starts so early now, I think it started this year in end of August or 1st of September.
It does start early. And what I will say to your point about the children and their school schedule, one of the benefits of us living up east is that the children in Florida go to school a few weeks earlier than us.
Right.
So if you must go in the summer, then you could go then. But for us, we've found solid success with September. It just with the girls' school schedule, we've pushed it back to more so October. But we've really enjoyed September. Corey, it was still pretty hot though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really as humid though. The humidity is lower, but it's still hot. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Corey, well, you said you lived in Atlanta, so for us, it doesn't start to cool down. Man, I think we just bypassed fall. I'll be honest with you. Like 2 weeks ago,
it was a weekend. It was literally a weekend.
Difference in 2 days. One day it was in the 70s. Next thing you know, we woke up, it was 25 degrees. I said, what in the world? So it just kind of did that. And it was November. So if you go to the parks, it's going to be hot, but nothing's like June and July Florida hot. I mean, it is.
I agree.
It is. It's to the point where sometimes I think Disney has to have a ensemble of emergency folks on staff.
Absolutely.
Because with the number of people I see in the parks and how hot it is, and I know a lot of folks are eating and doing a lot of stuff that, I don't know, may not be the best for them, particularly in the heat. I think that person could go down any second. And then you get on these rides and folks get shaken around a little bit. I think, man, they either got to be really lucky or they've got to have one of these deals where they're really prepared for it, because the heat to the point where, like Corey is saying, man, I've seen some people in the parks that are not the smallest people, and they're sweating and they're doing a lot of other stuff. And I think, oh boy, I'm uncomfortable, and I'm not a very big person. If I'm carrying a lot of weight, or if I'm an older person, sometimes you see seniors in the park and it's really hot. And I think, man, maybe today wasn't the best day to bring somebody in their 70s or 80s to the park in the middle of the day. But people do it. And, fingers crossed, hopefully everybody's getting in and out and not having any issues. But yeah, September, I think you can have some success there.
I agree. Absolutely.
Let's see. So here's what we've done, and here's what I'm going to do for you. So you've not listened as a listener to all the podcasts. So shame on you, first of all, number one. So I'm going to shoot you back to about 4 podcasts where it's going to give you detail per park. So we're talking about strategy. We're going to do it and break it down by park. And I'm going to give you a macro level thought about that so you understand what these podcasts are on a micro level. The first is the Magic Kingdom, my top 5 attractions. So that's podcast number 2. And so what we did, we went through and we said, what are my top 5 attractions for this particular park? And so we said what the top 5 are. We also gave you information and maps on where they are in the park. So if you don't know that, we show you that. And then in addition to that, we discuss with you our strategy on making sure we secure access to that attraction. So there are 3 things: what the top 5 are, where they are, how to get on them. And so I think if you go through that as a first time or even as an advanced person, it'll give you a strategy for how to approach it. Now, one of the things, Nicole, I wanted to talk to you and Corey about, because I don't know if we're going to be the same or we're going to differ on this, because even my methodology has kind of changed over the years. And that is, how do we approach, let's use Magic Kingdom, for example, because I think it's probably the most pure pinwheel of them all.
Yes.
How do we approach our day at Magic Kingdom? How do we approach it? What's your strategy for attacking Magic Kingdom?
So I think, to your point about podcast number 2, it is very important to look at the layout of the park and write down kind of your strategy before you go in to book your fast pass. Because what could happen is you'll go in your fast pass and you'll be so happy to see certain rides that you will select times where it is just physically impossible for you to get from one ride to the other.
Yes.
Yes. And for us, naturally, when people enter Magic Kingdom or the parks in general, they veer right.
Yep.
So we go left.
Okay.
So we start kind of left or the furthest point of the park. So where everyone's, entranced on Main Street and they're smelling all the great smells, we're pushing past Frontierland by that point.
Right.
What we then do is, once we hit those major rides, it's very important to take a break in the middle of the day. 1, for your sanity. 2, to help bypass those crowds. So by like 2:00, we are breaking for lunch, or, we do be our guest a lot. We are making sure that we're not kind of bumping into, if you will, those that veered right.
Okay. But you're following the pinwheel. You're actually going in the pinwheel motion.
Yes.
Okay.
We've had times where we were daring and said, oh no, we can do this and just book this fast pass and that fast pass. And I think we were arguing with each other by the end of the day.
Kelly, I was just getting ready to say, we learned this. We learned this by, baptism by fire.
Yeah.
We found out the hard way on how to do this. I remember Nicole booking fast passes. We would go from Adventureland to Tomorrowland. Then our next fast pass is in Frontierland. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is a lot of walking back and forth, man. What's going on? And then, Nicole's like, okay, let me figure this out. And that's when, she figured out how to navigate the parks. But I'm telling you, at first, our first time back as adults,
It's a little rough.
Well, yeah, and I'll expand on that when we talk about mistakes that we've made in the past. But yeah, so Kelly, we do follow the pinwheel.
Okay. And just so I don't leave anybody in the dark and assume they know, so the pinwheel, for example, is the um, constructive layout of the park in the middle of the park where you normally, you obviously have Cinderella Castle for Magic Kingdom. Right now we have Chinese Theater for Hollywood Studios, and we have the Tree of Life for Animal Kingdom. And for Epcot, is a little different. I know there's a pinwheel, but I don't really consider the pinwheel because the landmark, of course, is Spaceship Earth, and it is at the very front of the park. We'll kind of put an asterisk on Epcot, and I mean, obviously, World Showcase is in circular, but we'll talk about Magic Kingdom for now. So the pinwheel speaks to the idea that everything branches out from the center. So the way Walt developed this for our new listeners and folks that are new is that folks would see down Main Street some sort of attraction, not attraction in the sense that you could get on it, but something that would attract you to go toward it. In this case, it is Cinderella Castle. And once you get there, you can see the different lands. So you can look from Cinderella Castle and you can see Adventureland. You can see, Tomorrowland. You can see Fantasyland. You can see all that. And it would motivate the guests to go in those directions. And so that is a pinwheel because it's circular. It circles back around to Main Street. Either way you go, it circles back around to Main Street. So when we talk about pinwheel, that's what we're talking about. And Nicole, I'm really glad that you said you guys go left because I'm going to get the opposite approach. Okay. And when we go in, so it's if then. It's an if then though, because Nicole and Nicole are right. It depends upon your success with booking your fast passes.
Absolutely.
So if you're unsuccessful with getting the fast passes that you want and there's a must do, I'm going to tell you what happens to most people because it happened to us last year. We always ride Seven Dwarfs. Like it's just a must do. It's kind of like Space Mountain. Now, we just want to get on it. But Seven Dwarfs is the hardest fast pass to get because everybody wants to get on. Actually, Seven Dwarfs, and believe it or not, Peter Pan's Flight. I mean, who would have thought? Peter Pan's Flight is consistently 90 to 100 minutes. Like I could pull up my app now and I was early, but I guarantee it's over 30 minutes. So, but anyway, Seven Dwarfs is we love to ride Seven Dwarfs. So it's a must do. So last year I'm booking and, doing what I normally do. And I think it was because of our group size. We had a group it was 5 of us. And then it was 3, my brother and his family's coming. So it was 8 of us. I think if we only had 4 people, we probably could have booked no problem. But 8 fast passes for Seven Dwarfs was not happening. And so I said, okay, what am I going to have to do to make this happen and still get on the other, use my fast pass for something else? So here was my strategy. I booked the fast passes for items in the proximity. So assuming we make rope drop, which we do, and assuming we go directly to Seven Dwarfs, which we did, I said we could do it with minimum weight with no fast pass. And that way we wouldn't have wasted the fast pass for it and we would use the fast pass for something else. So that was my theory. Didn't work. It's so
I was curious. I was waiting. I was like, wait a minute, did this work?
No. It did not work. Let me tell you what I did. We went to rope drop, and as soon as that rope drop, Nicole, you're right. Everybody went to Seven Dwarfs. To the point where I think people were knocking over kids' strollers. It was like a stampede. I was like, this was the longest line I've ever seen at any attraction in all of my time going to Walt Disney World. And it was 8:33 in the morning. I was like, seriously? We're never going to get on this because I booked the fast pass for Space Mountain. I said, if we commit ourselves to standing in this line, it's going to screw up the rest of my day. So I just told my group, I got to make an executive decision, guys. We're going to do the hard way. We're going to go with our fast passes, bypass Seven Dwarfs, and cross our fingers for Seven Dwarfs evening attempt. And that's what we did.
Yes.
And so for us, that's an example I gave you. But normally what we do go right. So we start off in Tomorrowland, and we exhaust everything that we want to do there, from Buzz Lightyear to Carousel of Progress, or we love riding the people mover. We just ride
People
everything.
Mover is great. Yeah.
It really is. It really, really is. And we just use your approach, but we're coming from the right. So we end up, like, you'll probably end up in Tomorrowland before you get back to Main Street at the end of the night to watch Castle Projections. We end up in our last rides are usually Pirates, because we end up in Adventureland.
That's a great finale, by the way.
It is.
Pirates is a good one. So I am very, when you were mentioning the strategy, I was like ready to take notes, because I think it is very important to kind of trial and error. So I've learned from you. I won't try that method, but I will say something too that might be controversial, but we try to, if we can, avoid the particular park that has the extra magic hours.
Yeah.
So I know that naturally people might gravitate towards, oh, I get an additional hour in Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But what that relates to for me is, okay, I'm going to Animal Kingdom because no one's going to be there. Everyone's going to Magic Kingdom. So it's kind of the same method of, when everybody goes right, you go left. Really quickly, I want to go through our last Magic Kingdom trip. And yes, I actually have touring plans and strategies that I keep on file.
Mm-hmm.
So this was what our day looked like. We did a character meet with Tinkerbell at 8:04. By 8:24, we were at Space Mountain.
Okay.
Pirates of the Caribbean at 9:01. We hit up Big Thunder Mountain at 9:18 with a 2-minute wait time, for the record. Splash Mountain, we were there at 9:55. I gave everyone a break. We did Be Our Guest. We had reservations at 11:05. Did a Tiana character meet at 12:54, and then we were on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train by 2:40 with a 13-minute wait time.
Man, did you have fast passes for Seven Dwarfs?
We had to, and I know your situation was that you didn't, but we had to. But what that allowed us to do was, we were kind of done with everything that we wanted to hit up, and it allowed for additional magical moments. So when we first get into the park and we do Main Street, everyone gravitates towards the street, right? And the castle's beautiful. We get it. We tend to walk through the stores, and for first timers, all the stores are connected. So you basically get an air-conditioned walk up the street.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to come back once everything's died down. Main Street's a little slow. We spend more time on Main Street. So one of the magical moments of that trip that I remember is, again, it was fairly slow. Everybody had moved to all of the other islands, all the other lands.
Right.
We were able to grab some ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And there on the side streets of Main Street, if you are there and it's not crazy, you could actually hear the townspeople, if you will. That's just another level of Disney magic. So we were sitting there eating ice cream, and we could hear a piano lesson being done, on the second floor, and kind of the bustle, if you will, of the townspeople in Main Street.
Yeah. That's really nice. We do that in the evening. One of the things that we like to do once we've exhausted, the pinwheel, if you will, we end up back on Main Street. In my group, we pick either popcorn or ice cream or cookies or something, and we have a little nook, kind of halfway down Main Street on the right side, if you're facing the castle, there's a little nook, like a little cul-de-sac.
We might have the same nook. We might have to send you a picture.
Oh, my goodness.
Pandora shop.
Yeah. You know exactly where it is. It's far enough away from the crowds where you can just kind of sit and stretch out a little bit and not worry about anybody stepping on your feet. And you can still see everything. You can still see people walking and moving and enjoy. It's one of the greatest places to wind down.
Well, that's where though, if you just listen, coming out of those windows, you hear, someone giving a music lesson. You hear people talking coming out of those windows right there in that little nook.
Yeah. It's really great. And listen, guys, I think that's really good advice for folks that are going, and maybe these are some things that they can look out for and listen out for, hearing both of our perspectives on how to attack this pinwheel. I'll just reemphasize it's an if then, because we've been doing this a while, and I'll include Corey and Nicole when I say we've been doing this a while, and you can hear, and I'm going to let Nicole talk about the mistake they made with Dumbo in just a second. We've made mistakes. There's going to be times if you're a first time goer, you're going to go and you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe Frontierland is so far from Space Mountain. Well, that's how you learn. If you don't listen to podcasts like this and you make a fast pass to leave Space Mountain and then go to, a Splash Mountain or to somewhere in Frontierland, that's just the way you learn. And then the next time you'll be like, I'm not doing that again. Or you could listen to us and take a look at the maps and just kind of familiarize yourself with the layout of the park, which is one of the things I always advise people to do. I didn't do that. And that's how I made mistakes. Had I taken a little bit more time the first time I went, I would have been a little bit more successful in terms of the distances and saving my steps. So you want to save steps and time in line. That's all of our goal. And planning where you're going to eat in your attraction route is very important. But that's sort of an intermediate to expert level type of deal. I don't expect someone who goes for the first time to be able to say, hey, I can do rope drop, I can get on Space Mountain, I can exhaust Tomorrowland and make my way around past Fantasyland, and I'll just eat over at Columbia Harbor House, and then from there I can go into the second part of my day. That's a little bit more advanced. I'm going to end up on Main Street. I'm going to do my shopping in Emporium. I'm going to have about 30 minutes before the castle projection. You've done it a couple times if you know how to do that, and even then you got to have the crowd guides sort of on your side in terms of if you don't have fast pass for some of these things. So these are suggestions. These are things that we've done and approaches that you could take to assist you. Now, nothing is going to be flawless. Like, Nicole's hit some record times there with weight. I'll tell you on the opposite end, that particular day I told you guys about where I didn't have the fast pass for Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah.
We came back at the end of the day, and I've never waited in any line as long as I waited that day. It was 3 hours, and my kids,
hard.
They were
bless your heart, Kelly. Bless your heart.
Yeah. We done everything else, and I knew the chances. See, because here's what happens for Tomorrowland and for Peter Pan's Flight and certain rides like that. The day doesn't benefit you. What I mean by that is the longer the day goes, the longer that wait time is going to be. You come back to Space Mountain at night and it's going to be 90 minutes. People are not going to get out of line at night now, unless they go while the projection is going on. Of course, if you want to see that, then there's a conflict there. And if you're willing to wait really late, but the day goes on, the chances of your wait time in some of these more popular attractions doesn't go down. Unfortunately, it goes up. So that's what we were up against. And that really changed the way I looked at, fast passes and opportunities for larger groups like we had that day. And it changed the strategy. So the next time I went, I had to do something different to make sure we got where we wanted to be and we avoided the long wait times. But Nicole and Corey, I wanted to hear about your guys' mistake. One of the things that you wanted to share with the audience about something that you learned from.
Okay, so it was our first time going to Disney World as adults. And somehow we thought that we could do 4 parks in 4 days. Oh yeah. So we thought we could do 4 parks in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Ava was 8 years old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had my rookie mistake was I didn't engage the rest of the crew. So Corey's got great directional sense and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So had I had spoken to him, he might have been like, hey, let's pull this back. But and there's a funny picture, I'll actually send it to you. But I literally thought that we were going to be able to do upwards of 20 attractions a day. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Saying it out loud, I know that I was delirious. So I didn't gauge the temperature of everyone else that was with me. I was just pushing forward.
Right.
Which resulted in Ava having a complete meltdown on Main Street. And so the photo pass person's taking the picture and Ava looks like she's about to cry on Main Street. So that was the wake-up call for me that even if this was our only trip and only time at Disney, that is not how I wanted to spend it. It is not a competition.
Yeah.
I was Dumbo or die mode, seriously. And right.
So we're going to do this attraction before we
do. But, so here's the thing. There are so many, it's not just the attractions, right? There's so much theming in the wait queues. There are, in addition to the character meets, I mean, we all love the big 5, but even taking time, and I can't remember their names right now, but to take the time to watch the guys that do the street art with the water and there's just so many magical moments that was the wake up call for me. I thought my child was going to run away and my husband was going to leave me, and I was like pushing through.
Yeah.
So don't do Dumbo or die. Just take your time.
Yeah.
Know that even I consider us, veterans at this. 10 attractions a day, and we're happy with that. That's a win for us.
I think being as though it was our first time as adults, we went into it with our childhood mindset, like we may not ever get back to Disney.
Right.
So we got to do it all.
Do as much as possible.
Yeah, and no.
What was your energy level like, Corey, the first time you went back as an adult? How did you feel? Did you feel any different as an adult trying to approach this versus when you were a kid?
I don't think so. I mean, I was a lot bigger. I was actually at that time I was a lot heavier than I am today. Mm-hmm. So that right there in itself, I was like, whoa, I gotta lose some weight. I needed a wake up call. Yeah.
And we went in August. We did everything wrong.
Oh my goodness.
We absolutely did everything wrong.
So that was a wake up call for me. One, so I'm like, whoa, I gotta lose some weight. My back was hurting, knees was hurting.
Yeah, back and legs are the first to go because walking and standing. Yeah.
Yeah. So at that time, I was a much bigger guy. So I knew if we were going to continue to do this, I gotta lose some weight. So, as a child, I don't really remember. I feel like, shoot, I could have did anything. I like I told you before in the last one, we stayed at, it wasn't called Port Orleans at the time. It was something else. I can't remember. But, I used to stay up until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning riding a slide at the pool because the pool stayed open 24 hours.
Yeah. I think for me, my energy level going into it for the first time as an adult was very special to me as a child. So I wanted to be special for Ava as a child. I didn't realize the first time we went back how special it would be for me as an adult.
Yeah.
I still had the mindset of, okay, this is what, this is a child thing. I absolutely now understand why there are childless couples or childless millennials that enjoy the parks.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, you know, going back until I spent time there.
Yeah.
And then it was, oh, we've got to do this more. If we can, let's do it more.
Yeah, those are both good points. And the reason I asked that, Corey, was because a lot of people are returning as adults. They went as kids, and they're now in their 30s or 40s, and they have kids now, and they want to take them to the park, and they are sharing or trying to share, like Nicole is saying, those memories that they had with their kids. And I just want them to understand that it's gonna be different. It's gonna be different for you
Absolutely.
physically. Now, mentally, you may still be that 10-year-old, and we all hopefully hold on to a little bit of that Peter Pan. But physically, unless you work out, and I remember we talked about that before about our advice to folks to make sure they start walking and stuff like that before they go.
Absolutely.
This is how we figured all that out. Like Corey is saying, you guys, part of your advice last podcast was that you would advise folks to exercise and walk before they go. Well, we figured that out by going to the park, not having walked and not having exercise. And we said, if we do this again, we got to be better prepared.
Yep.
You know what surprised me? My family had just went to Disney, and I had touched base on them on podcast number 23. But my cousin is actually, she's a registered nurse, but she is also she does competitions for weightlifting and toning and so I said, how was the trip? She said, I felt pain that in places I didn't even know, and she's extremely fit.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great because I was like, oh, I thought it was just me and my sedentary lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's great to put that in perspective that you have to prepare. You absolutely have to
and
prepare.
The thing was, they told me their feet was hurting. And the first question I asked was, well, what kind of shoes you had? And they said, well, we had just bought these sneakers. And I said, well,
no.
Yeah, you can't go in there with brand new shoes. You got to have them broken and ready to go.
And the funny part was too is that whenever I go to Disney, I wear my Crocs most of the time, Crocs or Teeks, just because of the weather and the comfort level. And so they would always make fun of me about the Crocs. And so she goes, well, I had to break down and buy a pair of Crocs. Really? I said, yeah, welcome to all things Disney.
Yeah. Well, listen, my theory on why folks for the first time have pain is because during a normal day for us, we don't walk as much. Most of us don't walk as much, even those of us who exercise. Like I've gone from lifting, and when I became plant-based, I lifted every day, and so I was in shape from a workout standpoint. I could lift, but it had nothing to do with my cardio. So I started combining weightlifting and cardio. Well, you can do all the cardio in the world. If you're not walking and standing on your feet for 8 hours, it's a different feel. So there are reasons why certain muscles start to inflame, and particularly your back. If you are an adult person, I sold shoes for 5-6 years, and I would try to explain to people, primarily women, that your feet are so important. Your feet are really gonna help you feel good the rest of the day. So you got to make sure your feet feel good. If your feet don't feel good, your legs are not gonna feel good, and if your legs don't feel good, eventually your back. And then if it goes really sideways, then your shoulders and then your head. And for me, being in the parks, I actually want to feel good. I want all of this to work out. So we got to think down to the core level of how do we do that. And it, from a physical standpoint, starts with, us taking care of ourselves, but planning, like Corey is saying, don't buy brand new shoes and then take them to the park. It's 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work out for you. Now, if you buy those shoes 30 days ahead of time and do your walking in them like we advised on the last podcast, yeah, you're set to go because your body has gone through the soreness. You've been sore already. So you're not going to get sore again if you continue to walk. So don't experience your soreness in the park. Experience your soreness at home, where you can take a nice hot bath, or medicate as you need to, take your ibuprofen or whatever you do. But by the time you get to your park experience, you're set and you're physically ready to go. So that's
Right.
that's a
So
freebie.
it's a ton of walking, right? And while you're in the park, your break from walking is standing in line.
Yes.
So you're
Congratulations.
still on your feet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the legs and the feet are very, very important. And I'll tell you guys this one thing, and then we're gonna move on to the next, because what you were talking about with your Dumbo experience, I actually in 2010, I think I told you guys this a little bit of the story before, but we went to Disney World. We were in the park for Christmas Day, actual Christmas Day, not just around Christmas. And Nicole, we actually did a park a day up until Christmas Day. We ended up in Magic Kingdom. Now, what was intimidating for me about that trip was I had 17 people following me through the park.
No pressure, huh?
No. And to top it off, this was pre-Magic Band Day. This was old school fast pass, where you have to like walk and everybody's to stick their ticket in the machine and get time to return, all that other jazz.
You can cue in Ursula's Poor Unfortunate Souls now.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, it was one of the best trips to the parks that I've ever had. It was one of the best trips to the parks I've ever had. My sister-in-law said, I'm never going to the parks without my brother-in-law. She's like, I felt like I didn't have to do anything. She was like, I just followed Kelly the whole time and everything was great. She said, I didn't know where anything was. And she told me this after we got back a few months later. I said, I didn't really feel a lot of pressure after the first day. But when I sit down and think about it, I had a variety of folks. My mom was with us. So my mom obviously is older than us. So we had to not, road runner it through the park. And then I had my nephews, I had my kids. So you have little kids and their desires, and you have adults and their needs and desires. And you got to get everybody to the bathroom. And then you want to find a restaurant where everybody can eat. And then when you're in Magic Kingdom, this is a huge tip for folks who haven't been during Christmas season, Christmas week, or Christmas Day. Disney has some magic men sitting in a room somewhere, and I'm gonna tell you, they're geniuses. This is what they do, and I can appreciate it being a logistician. But I move freight. I don't move people. Freight it doesn't have a brain. Mm-hmm. Disney is so clever that they offer sales during parts of the day that you can only access if you come to the store. And this is what I'm talking about. So let's say they're trying to minimize the amount of people in Fantasyland. Well, they offer 20 and 30% off at the Emporium at 2:00. Let's say Fantasyland at 2:00. Oh, everything's on sale.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, but the crowd moves out of one space and they kind of shimmy down the Emporium to buy their souvenirs and stuff. And so now the traffic that would have been in Fantasyland or wherever, it's minimized because everybody's trying to take advantage of the sale. And they do things like that throughout the day to shift the crowd. And I'll tell you how I know this to be true. I was sitting one day.
That's ingenious.
It really is. I was looking at my receipt from our dining experience. And at the bottom of the receipt, it gives you all these opportunities to save money on things. And they're all back on Main Street. So that means you got to come out of the pinwheel and head back over to Main Street. And that relieves the pinwheel in some fashion of your number. So for us, it was 18. We would mosey on back over to Main Street so people could buy a watch that was $35 for $25. And these sorts of things. So, of course, people want to take advantage of that. And throughout the day, they use systematically things like that to move the crowds. But
I think they need to incorporate that in Not So Scary now. The crowds in Not So Scary are getting up there. Yeah. So, but now I'm even more piqued and interested in doing the month of December. So thanks, Kelly. You're just pushing me further and further in the right direction.
Well, you know what? You have to do it at least one time. You guys love Disney. You have the babies, you have the little ones, and my perspective. I said this in one podcast before. I loved it so much. I was fortunate as a kid to be able to go. I didn't go during Christmas, but when I was there the first time, I don't even remember when it was. It wasn't Christmas Day, but when I was there the first time to experience the Christmas in the parks, I don't know a kid that doesn't like Christmas, but to experience it the way Disney does it, it takes something that's already great and makes it grand. And for a kid, I just feel like every kid should have that at least one time in their lives. Now, you're not going to want to go every year, but at least one time to see those lights, to see the trees, to have that interaction with the characters. During the regular year is great, but on Christmas it's just grander to me, and my kids agree. So that's why we select that time of year to go. It's all of our favorites, and the parks just make it better. All right, so man, we kind of got off topic a little bit, but that's cool. I think we got one more, Nicole and Corey, and then we're gonna call it a
Yes.
day.
Yep.
Let's
And we'll be
tell
quick
folks.
with this one.
We'll tell folks how to save time and money. We've already talked about how to save time, but let's kind of school people maybe how to save money and how to enjoy themselves at Walt Disney World, because we know about the time issue. We talked a little bit about the lines and how we kind of navigate and kind of get in there. But one of the things that people always say is, how can you afford to go to Disney World so much? I mean, isn't it super expensive? How can we help our folks understand? Yes, and yes, you can still go. Yes, and yes.
So for one, looking at sales, looking at promotions. So Disney's website, there's also a website, mousesavers.com, that gives you promos. Gift cards are your BFF. So simply put, big box stores, Target, those places will either give you a percentage off or cash back or a dollar amount off. So for example, we have a Sam's Club here. So we go to Sam's Club. For every $500 gift card, we get $20 off.
Mm-hmm.
And some people might say, well, that's not a lot. It's $20 more than what we had before. So
Yep.
We are very big on not paying for a vacation 6 months after a vacation.
Right.
So we, little by little, buy gift cards whenever we can, whenever it's in the budget. And then we utilize those gift cards. You can use them to pay for your trip. You can use them while on your trip. With Magic Bands, Magic Bands are linked to your room. You can have your gift cards on your room account.
Right.
So, again, it's like getting that $20 off. It's also a great tool to, if you have little ones and, everyone's like, hey, what do they want for their birthday? What do they want for the holidays? You can say, they'll take Disney gift cards. And then the kiddos have their own money to avoid any meltdowns for, a $25 bubble blower. It's like, if that's what you want, that's
Right.
that's your money.
Yeah.
So I swear by the gift cards. I also say that looking at the promotions, if free dining applies and fits for you and your family, that can absolutely be a cost savings. Also, and we've talked about this before, shopping before you go to the park. So going to the character's warehouse, or even if you have a Disney store outlet by you, picking up some of those wands at a fraction of a cost that you would pay at the park,
Right.
and packing them with you. I cannot tell you how much money I've saved. As soon as Ella would see a light up wand, I'd go into my backpack. Here's yours, honey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm saving money and I'm saving time because I'm not waiting in line to buy this item.
Yeah, because that one on Main Street right before the castle projection,
It will get you.
it definitely will. It gets me every time because my kids know. My wife accuses me of just spoiling all the kids, but my kids know dad does not say no in Disney World. So everything's a go. So when those carts come
Oh,
down Main
that must
Street,
be a dad thing. Oh man, that must
yeah.
be a
Yeah,
dad
I
thing.
do the same thing, Kelly.
We've had many arguments about that.
Yeah, my littlest, she's the best because she stays right beside me. She does not depart from me. She says,
Oh,
"Mom's like,
well
hey, we're gonna
played.
do this." She's like, "Nope, I'm going with Dad."
Right, right. Well
Like,
played.
I know what's about to happen here. Yeah. Well, you made me think of some things, Nicole, when you were talking about that. Number one, you're right. $20 is $20. That $20 could go for your parking because it costs $20
Yes.
a park. So if are not, uh, you know, uh, on property and you can ride the monorail into the park and you have to, have a vehicle, that $20 can go there. And just also a side note, because I always go and I always get, the little stickers and the pins and stuff for my birthday every time we go. Matter of fact, I'm in my studio now and I've got all the buttons that I've collected over the years. And what's great that Disney does is when you're celebrating something, wedding, birthday, anniversary, whatever, you can go to guest services and they will give you a button and they'll give you a group a button. And so every time you go around the park, people see you, particular cast members, they can congratulate you on whatever it is that you're celebrating. And one of the things that, now I don't know if this is going to happen every time, so use this as a suggestion and not a definitive thing. But last 2 years, I've gotten my button at Disney Springs. So the day before we go into the park, I already have my buttons. Prior to that, I would wait till I get to the park. Well, I
Oh,
started
that's a
getting them
good
at Disney
strategy.
Springs. Yeah, because then you don't have to hang out at guest services to get your button. You can be on into your attraction wait time. So Disney Springs has a great customer service group there, and they gave me buttons. My whole group had buttons. And when I pulled up to pay my parking the next day, the guy said, "Is this your birthday?" I said, "Yeah." Asked me how old I was. I told him. He said, "Well, your parking's on me today." And so,
Oh,
bam, straight through.
don't you love those magic moments?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it was awesome. I'm not suggesting to you, listener, to counterfeit your birthday so you can get free parking. But if you do go around the time of year where you're celebrating something, just be aware. It could be your wedding anniversary. It could be whatever. If you make them aware, I think 9 times out of 10 they usually share those magic moments. And for me, the last 2 years, it's been, free parking. So there's that.
and your first visit, you also can get a pin. If you're staying on property when you're checking into your resort, you can get a pin. Um, those pins are, we keep them. They are keepsakes and they're absolutely free. So
Yeah.
when we talk about saving money, here's another fun one. If you are visiting Typhoon Lagoon or Blizzard Beach and you are celebrating something, we celebrated Ava's birthday one year at Typhoon Lagoon, and they gave her a tattoo instead of a
Oh,
pin, and she
awesome.
loved it. She
Awesome.
loved it. So that was a way for the cast members, even with her bathing suit on, and not with a lanyard or a pin, for them to recognize her, and so that made it a special moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I guess with it being water related, they probably do that tattoo as opposed to the pen. Um, so I'm gonna tell you guys. I didn't plan to say this, but as you guys were talking, it made me think of something. Um, with the kids, and I agree with everything you guys are saying in terms of the gift cards. With the kids, I'll tell you how I make sure everybody. Now, my kids are older, so my youngest is 12, but everybody else is either in college or on their own. But I still, I guess to my wife's point of spoiling, I still give folks money when we head out to the parks. Um, but I'm gonna tell you how I've always done it over the years, even when they were still living at the house. This is what I would do. I sold shoes for a number of years when I was in college, and every day I would come home because I ate all kind of junk in the mall. I would have tons of change in my pocket, and I had these jars in my closet and on my dresser. I would just dump the change in my jar every day, and after a while, I had so many jars of change that when I was dating my now wife, she was like, "What are you gonna do with all this change?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm not going to the bank to stand there and count it out. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it." So I carried it around for the longest, and I kept doing it every year. I would just dump whatever. At the end of the day, I just got into this habit of whatever's in my pocket, I would just dump into this jar. Well, me and my mini me last year, was it last year, year before? I think it was last year. I just do that. I still do it to this day. And so we, would take it to I don't know what these machines are, but they have them in Kroger and other places where you can just take the change, dump them in there, count it for you, and they take a percentage, of course, but at least you're not rolling pennies and going to the bank. So, long story short, she says, "Well, Dad, is our time. Let's go and take our money to the bank or to Kroger and see how much we have this year." I had maybe a jar or two. You want to take a guess at how much money and how divided it's up with the kids? You want to take a wild guess?
You know what? It can be up there. So 300?
$373.
Yeah.
$373 just from dumping my pockets
absolutely
every day into my little jar in my closet. And of course, my daughter, who was 11 at the time, eyes just lit up because she knew that was going to be split three ways. So she's like, "So I get like $100?" I says, "Yeah, this is you guys' money. I don't ever plan to spend this. I only do it because, one, I get the change out of my pockets, but two, it's just a little way for me to have, unconsciously, I've saved this money throughout the year, right?
Yes. Yep.
Unconsciously, I've saved it. So I don't have to buy the cookies or the treats or whatever, and they have their own freedom. Now, with my oldest son, he get his $100. He comes back with 75. So I'm like, the mandatory thing here, though, is that you spend it.
Yeah.
So my son is like, "I don't want anything." I said, "Well, give it to your sisters or something. It's going to get spent."
Right. So, no, I agree. And we did something with Ava. And now that you say it, I definitely want to incorporate it with Ella. But so it was like Disney dimes. So save your dimes. And a 2-liter, a plastic 2-liter bottle of dimes can really add up. So if you fill it up to the brim, which we never got to that point, but if you fill up a 2-liter worth of dimes, it is something like a couple of $100. So I think you're looking at like $400 or $500, which is a lot of money when you think about it. So I think that's another way to incorporate getting your family excited for the trip.
Yep.
And I think you and I kind of being the main planners, when you'd mentioned your sister-in-law saying, "I won't go without you," that's what we do it for, right? That's our way of showing our family that we love them.
Yeah.
So I think incorporating that too makes things really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So Corey, what's the big thing that you purchased for little Ella on Main Street? Or things, I should say.
Oh
man, for Ella is more food related. So her thing is she gets to drink soda,
which she normally does not.
Which she doesn't.
Yeah.
But she can't wait. As soon as we get there and get our refillable mugs, she's getting a Coke. She wants a Coke right away. Yep.
Oh well, and then the 2 B's for her. So Bippity Boppity.
Yep.
And Banshee or Banshee accessories. So we have she has done Bippity Boppity Boutique, but what we've also done, which is a cost savings, and it's by one of your favorite rides and one of our favorites, there's a pirate makeover next to Pirates of the Caribbean where you can make them over. You can book a reservation almost same day. The wait's not as crazy as Bippity Boppity, and it's a fraction of the cost. So she's been a mermaid. Our next cruise, she's doing a tea experience with her dad. So it's more experience driven with her.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then Ava has a Loungefly and mini ear addiction
and
that rivals the best.
Stitch. She loves Stitch, so got to get her stuff Stitch, and you know.
He just doesn't say no. Where I am quick to say no. My favorite go-to line is, "We're choosing to spend our money elsewhere," and then they just they blank stare me, right?
So that magic band can get me in trouble sometimes because the money's not coming directly out of my pocket. I'm just tapping that magic band.
yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, we're in the parts once we leave the house to go on our trip. Not that it's any different, I guess, now that I think about it when we're here, but it's just because I spent a lot of my youth. We knew what we could do and what we could not do. Let's just put it that way. I won't take anybody.
Absolutely.
We didn't have a lot of resources, so it got to a point where I wouldn't even ask my mom for things because I just knew what the situation was. Well, conversely, my oldest daughter actually asked for a pony for her birthday one year. So they have my kids grew up very differently. And so I remember one day my oldest daughter was like 3. I don't know what she wanted, but I heard my wife, I was all the way upstairs, and I heard my wife say, "We can't afford this." And I almost lost my mind. I said, "Do not ever tell a child in this house that we cannot afford something." I said, "It may be true, but you tell them no for any other reason other than we can't afford it." Because I grew up hearing that all the time. I said, my children will not hear that. It limits a child's mind because after a while, they'll stop asking and they'll stop thinking that they can have things. They'll stop thinking that these things are for them. That was my childhood. And I said, my kids will not be limited in their mind.
I agree.
We don't say that.
No, we don't. And yeah, we say we choose to spend our money elsewhere. And it's trendy now to be eco-friendly or to, turn the lights off. And so that's big with Ava and Ella. And I'm like, listen, we have always been that way. And it wasn't because of the environment. I'm glad it turned out. I said, but listen, you did not open grandmama's door and let all the AC out. You did not.
No.
No, there were things that we just did. So I'm glad that we can incorporate some things of our childhood in a healthy way. But to your point, we absolutely agree. We don't limit them. We just say we're choosing to spend our money elsewhere. And they see it down the road as they look at other trips. They might not get the new $200 pair of Jordans, but they've got passport stamps. So it's just perspective.
Yeah. We can talk about that. I don't want to get into that. I agree totally. So, we're going to go to the last piece of this, and I'm just going to kind of give the audience 2 things. This is in regard to saving time and money. Nicole has given you some excellent advice, and Corey's excellent advice in terms of what they do. And I gave you a little bit about, just unconsciously, just whatever you have in your pocket. Listen, I have so much change in my car sometimes from going to, I don't know, drive-throughs and different things. I just toss in my car. I mean, there's a $50 or $60 every 3 months there just in change. Yep. So just do little things that take the bigger burden off, because you're going to have to pay for park tickets. Okay. You're going to have to pay for hotel and resorts. If you can take the little peripheral things off on, souvenirs and kids and just, this side eating and stuff like that, that really can help out your bottom line once you get to the park. But one of the things I did want to talk to you guys about really quick is, because folks love 2 things. Well, food, but they love merchandise. It's one of the things when I was a kid, I don't know if it was that big of a deal, but certainly today, you can't go into any park without seeing the merchandise. People love to represent themselves by their T-shirts and their hats. And so they absolutely love to come to the parks with their favorite character, with their favorite slogan or whatever it is. People are wearing, Walt Disney World merchandise. And if you're getting it from the parks, great. But if you're saying, you know what, I'd like some ideas on where I could do that cheaper. Nicole's already mentioned a few. I'm just going to tell you from our standpoint, because we don't really stay on property. We're on property a lot, but we stay in Kissimmee. And so
Okay.
we're at a resort, and down the street, maybe a red light or two, is a Walmart. And it's wonderful for a number of reasons. Because if you do forget something, of course, you can always pick it up at Walmart. I don't know. One year we went, my son forgot his belt of all things. So fortunately for me, I could run right to Walmart, grab my belt, and head on.
Hmm.
But one of the things that the Walmarts and Targets do in Orlando and in Kissimmee specifically, they carry a plethora of Walt Disney World merchandise. Now, the legitimacy of the authenticity and all this stuff, okay, if you want to get to that point, then just buy your stuff in the park. But if you just like to have a nice Mickey stuff, backpack, shirt, if you're getting something for a kid, whatever. I mean, there's a ton of stuff you can go to Walmart and pick up. There really is. And it's nice stuff. I bought two of my favorite shirts. One is the Pirates of the Caribbean. One is just where all the characters on it, like Welcome to Walt Disney World kind of
Hmm.
deal.
Hmm.
I've had that shirt for probably 6 or 7 years. Washed it several times. It is a really good cotton shirt. It's not like
Wow.
it's cheap stuff. It just costs less than what you get in the park. So I'm just throwing it out as an option. Some people are opposed to going to Walmart. Great. You can go to Target. It's just kind of the same thing. It's a little bit more. But there's rows and rows and rows of Walt Disney World stuff that you can buy at Walmart or Target. And we talked about our spots, guys, about the outlets on Vineland and International. There's Disney stuff there. I'm going to refer you back to podcast 23 for that. Nicole went into detail, and also the shopping with Ray. Every time Nicole and Corey we do this, I think of at least 3 or 4 other reasons why we need to come back and continue these
I
conversations.
know we're in
Because
trouble.
yeah, because we say, oh yeah, we're gonna do an hour. We're literally at almost 2 hours. We started at 9 o'clock this morning, and we can just probably continue going. But I want to be good stewards of your time, so I want to thank you guys first of all before I give you last chance to say anything else. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me. It's a wealth of information. I learn something every time I talk to you guys. I think every time I can sit and talk Disney, but it's one thing to talk Disney with folks who are just listening, but it's another thing to share ideas with folks who have the experiences that you have. So, guys, thank you so much. If there's anything that I missed, any comments, anything like that, you guys like to close out with, now would be the time.
I just want to say thank you, and we echo your sentiments. We always learn something new. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I wrote back to why this is so necessary. Hadn't it been for this podcast, we would have never known that there was a person in Georgia that is as passionate, or not, if even more passionate about Disney than us. So this is such a great way to connect people and connect the dots. So thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Also, thank you for sharing your platform with us and allowing us to actually spend this time with you. It's greatly appreciated, and trying to build this community, with everybody. When the water rises, all the boats rise. So,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
good job on your podcast you got going, and you also keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. Thank you both for saying it's very, very kind. Obviously, for folks who wake up 9 o'clock on Saturday morning and talk 2 hours of Disney, we sort of like Disney. And I hope you guys as listeners can appreciate that and feel that what I called before, that organic energy, within the conversation. One of the excellent things about a podcast platform for me as a listener is when I get those that I really like, I feel like I'm part of the conversation. Number one, I feel like I'm learning, and I hope these things are transpiring when you, the listener, are tuning in to my Disney brain. So I'm going to ask you to continue to do that. Again, I'm going to thank Nicole and Corey for being a part of this. I got to tell you, watching your video this morning, that little Ella, she looks like she has a personality 2 and 3 times the size of her physical body. So I'm looking forward to at some point meeting you guys in the flesh.
Yes.
And between then and now, I hope you guys have a great week, a productive week. And I think the weather's a little bit cooler there than it is here. So I'm going to tell you guys to stay warm and wrap up when you go out and all those good things. I will definitely be in touch. Like I said, I seriously think of at least 3 things we can continue to talk about that can add value. So at some point we'll revisit and we'll come back and provide the audience with that content as well. Again, Corey, if you would tell the audience where they can find Road Tripping with the Roots.
Yes, you can find us at Road Tripping with the Roots, and that's without the G in tripping. On Instagram, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Our Twitter handle is Road Rules on Twitter. Road Tripping with the Rules was just too long for the Twitter handle. So, yeah, those are the platforms that we're on. We are on Instagram the absolute most. But, you know, we drop our videos. I'm trying to drop videos 2 times a week. That's my goal. So, yeah, you can check out our videos, comment, like, subscribe. And give us some feedback. Let us know what you like and let us know what maybe you didn't like. I can take some criticism.
Well, it's all good content, and I enjoy it. It gives us a glimpse into, you know, some Disney world, some Disney window, which we're all looking for if we're not physically there all the time, and it just kind of keeps us going. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Listeners, thank you all for being a part today. And I hope that you have learned something that's going to add value to your next Walt Disney World vacation. If that is the case, please let us know by going to either our Instagram or probably our Facebook page would be the easiest. And just dropping us a note there. Comments on podcasts, this particular one, any of the ones that you've listened to. Even if you have show suggestions, one of the things that we like to do is listen to the audience and say, hey, maybe we missed a particular part because maybe we took it for granted that folks know this. If you think we've done that, shoot us a note and we'll entertain it and we'll see if we can get that information out to you. Now, you can email me directly at Kelly, Kelly, at mydisneybrain.com, and I'll be sure to get back to you immediately. Well, Nicole and Corey, I am off to enjoy chapter 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yep, same here.
I'm very limited on what I can do. My chores outside have been diminished because of the rain today. Yep. I've got 2 piles of leaves that are soaking wet now, sitting in the middle of my yard that I did not completely pull off of my front before it started raining yesterday. So I'll have to deal with that next week at some point. Yeah. So all of my chores are indoors. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And listen, thank you so much again. And I'm looking forward to the next time that we can do this.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. And we will talk to you again next week.